With the Neo-Egoist League entering its final chapters, the hype is through the roof for the upcoming U20 World Cups. And the biggest question on everyone's mind is who will make it into the top 23 to be qualified to represent Japan. And in today's video we will answer just that, and go over who I think will make the team. However, we won't go about it in terms of a list, as this has been done before. Instead, we will be building the perfect Japan U20 starting lineup, with the perfect playing formation, as well as who will be on the bench and be the perfect substitution for the players. So without any further ado, let's jump in. In order to really achieve the perfect starting lineup, it is mandatory for us to first figure out who are the players that the team will revolve around. For this, we can draw inspiration from what Igo Jinpachi did when building the Blue Lock 11 versus Japan's U20. There he had the team revolve around Nico's Watchtower, and later Ryo's chameleon style on defense, and Rin's insane technicality and skill on offense. He also had the secondary plan revolving Shido and Boru's explosiveness, in case the Rin plan just lacked firepower. This obviously was because at the time these were the best players Blue Lock had at those positions. But now after the two teams merged and after the NEL, we are going to have different focal points. First, I'm going to say this. I know the manga stated that the top 23 players from the NEL will represent Japan, however, I believe only 22 will make it, as we have to account for Sai. Even though this wasn't confirmed by any means, building the perfect team requires me to bring the best talent. And also the president of the Japanese Football Association would want him. And since Sai is a very egotistical player by nature, he will fit right in and Igo won't have any issue with him. Now, when it comes to playmaking, even though Japan has Ryo and Hiyori, both can't hold a candle to our boy genius. And thus, in terms of the midfield and the front line, they will be built around Sai. As for the defense, it is a no-brainer. Aiko will be the focal point as well as being the captain of the team. With this in mind, it is time for us to set the stage for the starting 11 with choosing the formation. In all honesty, I think the formation Igo settled on for the U20 game was perfect, and so I will be going with it. However, I will modify it a bit to make it a 4-4-3 by taking the wings up a bit and make them strikers as well. Trust me, it will all make sense in a bit when we get to the players. But for now, let's start from the top with the most obvious position, which is the goalkeeper. This one requires no brain power. We only have two goalkeepers for Japan, and one is obviously infinitely better. I'm talking about Kagamaru. In fact, he is the only goalkeeper in Blue Lock that has actual feats, and thus, as I said, it is an easy and obvious choice. As for Fukaku, by default he should make the list as we need a replacement for Kagamaru. However, the way things went, he actually might have had insane feats in the Manshine City game, since he got a 28 million bid afterward. Obviously, this was an assball from the writer. It seems like at the last minute he remembered that he needs more than just one goalkeeper. But for us, this means Fukaku is actually a good replacement for Kagamaru. But with this out of the way, let's move to the center backs. First, for the right CB, we have the guy that I said the whole defense will be built around. Oliver motherfrickin' Aiko. Hands down the best defender in Japan, and second only to Lorenzo in the U20 category. The guy has insane physicality, perception, spatial awareness and reaction speed. He is so potent in the sky with his jumping ability, but also he dominates the ground with his insane dueling ability. And of course his strongest weapon, Metavision. Not only does he have it, he actually has one of the most potent Metavision that we have seen thus far. This is coming from the fact that after awakening it, he was always keeping up with Iseki. But also in the last play of the Ubers game, Aiko was completely on page with them, and had it not been for Kaiser, he would have probably been able to see where Iseki and Hiyori were aiming at. It's really a no-brainer here, he is the best we got hands down. Add to that he was a striker, and if needs be, for example for a foul or a corner, Igo can rely on his aerial ability. Well, Igo could, but in fact he has a better option for set situations. I'm talking about the second and the left center back, Ryu Jubei, who actually is the king of the skies in the U20 category, no questions asked. Now, unlike most players on today's list, Ryu does not have any shown feats despite the very high bids he is having. Well, that's because the writer never really focused on him specifically. However, in the Ubers game we can see him throughout the match doing many feats in the background, mainly keeping Kunigami on a short leash, but also being a wall to mid-range shots with his insane reach. And this is his other selling point. His reach enables him to snatch every high ball coming his way, and this is why he will have the double role of snatching free kicks and corners whether on defense or on offense. but mainly Aryo and Aiko can easily secure and lock the aerial territories, and with Aiko's dominance on the ground and Aryo's wall, Japan's defense is looking as fierce as ever. Next, let's talk about our left back wing, who will be the Red Panther Chigiri Hyoma. Funny enough, before Chigiri used to be a right wing, but Princess Eagle Eye turned him into a scoring machine on the left bank. And so this is where he will be playing. As for why Chigiri is the best choice, I mean, the guy is the best speedster in Blue Lock and even in the U20 category. He is super deadly on offense with a golden zone and insane dribbling that enables him to enter it. In addition, he can lead an attack from the defense all by himself and often requires multiple players just to halt his bursts. And funny enough, Metavision users struggle in dealing with him. But also he has an insane ability to sneak on strikers and cut them off by staying away and then bursting into the scene at the last moment. And that's precisely why I chose to place him as a back wing rather than a forward wing, as he can scale the pitch very quickly and be very effective on double duty. For our right back wing, we have a player that is actually fast as well and can play perfectly on double duty, unlike Ego's choice of Bachura before, and the player I chose is actually Otoya. Now I gotta admit, we haven't seen any defensive feats from him. However, due to his stealthy playing style and his insane speed, which I would say is around 90, he can pretty much sneak and cut strikers even better than Chigiri. However, the real reason why I chose him instead, for example Zantetsu, is actually the shadow playing style he developed in FC Barca, which, as I stated in my Wasted Potential video, actually saved Otoya's career and made him relevant again, as he can be the perfect shadow for the striker, and given how much strikers like Baro, Ren and Isigi are shining nowadays, his skill set only becomes more impressive, as he can be the 12th ghost player. And I believe if utilized correctly, he can be a game changer and open more options for the front line. With this, however, we are done with the back line, and it's time for the midfield, and we will start with our center defensive midfield, which should be none other than Karasu the Assassin. His ball keeping and retention are still the best in Blue Lock. He has one of the biggest analytical brains on the pitch, and in recent chapters we saw his ability to be a team player, where he can connect with the back and front line very effectively, and the position of the heart of Blue Lock fits him perfectly. Add to that his assassin's playing style, where he can break the weakest link of the enemy team, and we get the best center back Japan has to offer. Next, we move to the forward midfield position. First, on the right side, we have the monster Bachura Meguru. In the U20 game, all of Bachura's feats were offensive, whether by being a great wing or by literally breaking through the whole U20 team's defense, while his defensive performance was very lackluster. As such, it makes much more sense for him to be a forward midfielder. As for why I chose him, well, it is very simple. The guy has the best dribbling we have seen in the U20 category, with only 2 players being on his level. And this makes Bachura an insane threat that, much like Chigiri, can lead the whole attack on his own. But also this ability of his to draw attention to himself, and the fact that the enemy defense is required to throw many players on him just to halt his advancement, works so well with our front line, as we will see in a moment. In addition, Bachura has one of the best passing abilities in Blue Lock, and all of these weapons make Bachura perfect for this position. But you know, there is a player who is more fitting for the position of a forward midfielder. Well, the player that will lead the team's attack force. I'm talking about Sai Itoshi, the new Gen 11 forward midfielder, and the best player on the team as of making this video. Now, while I explained why every player so far deserves their spot on the starting lineup, I don't think this will be needed for our prodigy boy, as his achievements speak for him. However, I will cover one aspect of his playing style. That is his no-interval plays, which, after Baro's second goal in the Ubers game, the show seems to be heading in this direction, with the strikers and midfielders linking up for the best spot, without looking at each other and without wasting any time or motion. And here, Sai is still the best player at this. Not even Speedster can react to him, only Metavision users and Shiro can do that. This means he is very tricky to deal with, but more importantly for us, this will be the main criteria for choosing the strikers, since the attack force will be revolving around Sai. As such, the first striker I will be announcing will be the player who will connect perfectly with Sai, the right wing of our formation, Isigi motherfreaking Yoichi. Much like Sai, little should be said about Isagi as his accolades speak for him. He has the best meta vision in this series, after Snuffy, and that's because his vision is adaptive due to his high adaptability. His off-the-ball movements become second to none after the Ubers game, and much like Sai, he learned to play with no wasted motion, and foresee plays into the future, due to him monitoring all of his surroundings at all time. And honestly, it's just scary what he can do in tandem with Sai. But while Isagi will go along so well with one half of the Itoshi brothers, the same can't be said about the other. And speaking of which, at the other side of the field we have Rin Itoshi as our left wing, who much like Chigiri will dance to his own rhythm and music, due to him hating both Sai and Isagi. However, as we saw in the U20 and later the PXG game, he is oppressive enough to earn a spot, and also much like Bachira, he requires many good players on him just to stop him, which as I said will give Isagi, Sai and the last player on our list enough space to be super deadly. But even still, Rin can play with Chigiri and Karasu just fine, and be a super deadly option on his own due to his vision, technicality and especially his berserker state. But also, even though he won't play with Isagi and Sai, he can still read their plays and even feed off of them, which greatly adds to his threat level. And finally, we have the position of the forward striker, or the pure striker of the team. And to be frank with you guys, I had a dilemma choosing this player. I mean, almost everything else was pretty obvious. Yet this position had my headgear spinning. And the reason for this is the fact that the best pure striker Japan has is Baro. He is the deadliest guy and the top scorer of the NEL, with the best predator eyes we have seen thus far, that engulf both Rin and Kaiser's types. Add to that he has the impossible feat of impressing the unimpressible Noah, to the point he said that he straight up has the best striker mentality in the U20 category, which alone is enough of a feat to make Baro the most worthy player of this spot. However, since the team is revolving around Sai, I find it more fitting for me to actually give this spot to Shido. With Sai being an anchor for both Shido and Isagi, Japan's offense would really hit like a truck, very powerful but also out of nowhere. And I mean, Shido can do what Isagi does all through instinct, and thus whatever Isagi is aiming for, not only can he match him, he can actually capitalize and target the empty space created by the enemy defense when reacting to Isagi, Rin and Bachira, which is super hard to deal with and respond to. And we kinda got a taste of that in the PXG game, where when being focused on Ren, Shido and Charles capitalized based on the reading of the field, which would work even better with Sai. And thus Shido is the most logical option despite Baro being an overall better striker. And this actually leads us straight into talking about the substitutions for this formation, with Baro being the first one for Shido for all the reasons I listed before. But I want to add this, that Baro's unpredictability is still a force to be reckoned with, and with his ability to be the light of the team, he can be an alternative option that would throw the enemy team off and force wins for Japan. But with this easy pick out of the way, let's actually look at who would make the perfect replacements for the remaining players. First, let's carry on with the strikers. For Rin, we have the fallen hero Kunigami, who while obviously he won't be as oppressive as Rin, I feel his ability to snatch goals unexpectedly and his physical dominance grants him a spot, as he can be a reliable tech choice for loading the attack with firepower. Granted, he gets rid of the lone wolf mentality, which he already shown us signs of that in the PXG game. On the opposite side of the field and replacing Isagi, we have the dormant genius Nagi. Now, lately his fragile ego has been shredded by his laziness. However, it seems that the criticism finally got to him, and we see him wanting to reawaken, so there is still hope for him. And even though I don't think his positioning is the best, the fact of the matter remains that he is still the best player at making impossible shots from impossible situations. And in dire circumstances, he can be the key to opening the score and allowing the team to breathe. Obviously, with Nagi replacing Isagi on the right bank, Ryo will be replacing Bachira to further draw the best out of Nagi. But even still, on his own, Ryo is still an insane player with probably the best versatility in Blue Lock. His chameleon style is really tricky to deal with, and his vision is superb with him having meta vision. However, much like Kunigami, this requires him to get rid of his weakness, which is his over-attachment to Nagi. If he does, we can even see him copying and then linking with Sai to create a double beating heart for the front line. Speaking of Sai, I think we can all agree that there is only one player fitting to barely be his replacement, and that player is Yo Hiyori, who actually is the Walmart version of Sai. And I say this with good intentions, as he is on the right path to rivaling him and makes for an easy choice for us. For Karaso, he will be the first character on this formation to actually have two substitutes, Raichi and Tokimitsu. With his dueling ability being through the roof and his infinite stamina, Raichi is perfect for grindy games and high-level matches, while Tokimitsu works perfectly as a reinforcement to the defense with his relentless playing style, which by the way is very effective against dribblers, as we saw in the PXG game. Ness completely avoided trying to dribble past him, and so these two players open Ego's options greatly, as he can even modify the formation to have two center defensive midfielders by replacing Bachura's position. Speaking of Ego's options, I want to shift the focus towards another subject for a second, as I think this is a good place for me to talk about the player who will not be making it from the top 23 list and will be replaced by Sai. Well, the most obvious answer is the player at the 23rd place, which, as of the recording of this video, is Raichi. However, he still has a game to play, and so does most of the low-ranked players. I think the best option for us would be to look at the Uber's players who have received their final bids. The lowest is actually Fukaku, which I think will be the 23rd. However, even if he is, we still need two goalkeepers, and thus we look at the player right after him, which is Sendo. And here is the thing, as much as I want him to make it, I really don't see him doing so. Most players below him are willing to really prove themselves, and the last game is already proven to be at the highest of levels, and so I bet they will surpass him. And also I really don't know who of the strikers will be the best to be substituted with Sendo, and so I will eliminate him. Moving on to the defensive line, let's start with the back wing, Otoya, who much like his friend Karasu will have two players fitting as his replacement, and both of them are insane speedsters. I'm talking about Zantetsu and Kurona, who both have the best acceleration in Blue Lock, and each has an amazing ability to move the ball up to the front line, with Zantetsu potentially being an insane threat with his golden zone, and Kurona perfectly linking with Isagi, opening more options for him and Sai, and both are perfect for playing at this position. On the mirror side we have Yuki as Chiguru's substitute. Now Yuki is just like Kunigami and Ryo, in that they are insane players with amazing weapons, but lack the mental fortitude that would elevate them to world class. However, when needs be, the one-on-one Emperor still can carry the ball forward to the front line consistently and even be an additional threat with his amazing shooting ability and dribbling. But finally we reach the center backs, and for this we have an obvious substitution, which is Nico, who depending on the matchup works as a replacement for both Aiku and Aryu. Much like Oliver, Nico possesses meta vision, and his reading ability is top-notch. His analytical eye is amazing and his tactical vision is one of the best. Add to that his watchtower defense style that is perfect for countering long-range passes and off-the-ball movements. And overall, I think Nico is the best defender after Aryu and Aiku, and the only fitting character to replace the two kings, with Tokimitsu and Raichi being less optimal but still good options as well. However, with this, our list is complete, and honestly, it is looking fierce. I just don't know what country can stand to this monstrosity. A team with one of the best defensive roster, but also probably the best offensive line in the world right now. But this leads us to the end of the video, guys, and to recap, here are the players that will make it, as well as the formation we settled on. I hope you guys enjoyed and let me know what do you think of my selection. Until next time, thank you for watching.